everybody, and a very, very warm welcome back. I am very excited to be back after a little while, and I welcome you to the sunny side, where ASMR meets the wonderful emotional freedom technique. EFT. Welcome. I am very happy to be doing this video. So recently I have been talking to you about our inner children, where our negatively connoted emotions stem from, and that we have these parts, our inner selves, these versions of ourselves within us that have made some scary experiences and hold on to feelings of insecurities or other things. And I have also told you that in the end, EFT is a way of self-parenting, of accepting yourself, acknowledging yourself, seeing yourself. And therefore, I thought that today I want to add on to that and talk about the importance of language. The words we use, the language we use, particularly in the context of EFT. So, when we're doing the emotional freedom technique, when we are tapping and working on ourselves, I personally recommend to do this in your mother tongue. Now you may wonder why. So when we work with our inner children, with these young versions of ourselves that might hold on to some fear or insecurity, then you might be able to connect better to that part of yourself if you're actually speaking the language that this part of yourself knows. So imagine yourself being 3 years old and making some scary experience where you felt insecure, and now whenever you find yourself in a fairly similar experience, this 3-year-old part of you gets triggered. So you want to work through it, work with it, and nurture it. Well, if you're speaking a foreign language to this child, a language that you yourself did not know when you were 3 years old, it will be harder for this part of you to understand you and therefore to actually resonate with what you're saying. Consequently, it will be harder for you to get access to that part of yourself. So speaking in your mother tongue makes this connection to yourself easier, it resonates deeper, and it makes the connection more real. So this is my first advice. This does not mean that a sequence does not work as well. It does not work if you're doing it in a foreign language, but it might be harder to truly connect to the part where the core of your insecurity sits. Okay. Now the second thing. Is that this also is about the words you use. So it's not only about the language you are talking in, but also the explicit words you use. So when you're referring to someone during your tapping, for example, a parent or a sibling or a teacher, then it makes sense to use the names or the exact nicknames that this part of you would use. For example, if you called your father Daddy as a child, or you still do it, it makes sense to refer to your father during a tapping sequence as Daddy. The same goes for Mommy or Nana or whatever. Use the kind of words that this child of yours, your inner self, that you yourself used when you were that young. So you really don't need to use any therapeutic vocabulary. This would just make it more difficult to truly get access to yourself. EFT is all about seeing yourself, acknowledging yourself, seeing where the pain, where the difficulty stems from, and then letting your inner child speak. So even if it sounds immature or maybe even silly, that's often where the real magic happens. And you might even also notice that when you really let your inner child speak, your tone might change. Maybe not. You will see. Okay, so the third really important point, and this is something that comes up a lot in the emotional freedom technique, is that often we're quite limited when it comes to describing our emotions. And there are actually studies that show that on average people use around 3 to 5 emotional words regularly. 3 to 5, when in reality there are way more words. So that has the effect that sometimes we might say, "Oh, I feel so angry, I'm so angry," and we genuinely believe that we are angry. But maybe when you question it a bit deeper, it might not actually be anger you're feeling, but frustration or hurt or scared. But we cannot see because we don't usually use these emotions to describe our emotions. So that's why during the first part of an EFT tapping sequence, we often try out different words. We try to describe what we are feeling, and we circle around what we are feeling to really, really get this connection to our inner child. And when we land on the right word, it often feels like something inside yourself is like, ah yes, this is it. So you might start out saying, even though I feel so angry today, I completely love and accept myself. And then you start the tapping sequence, you say, I feel so angry. And then you're like, and I feel so frustrated, and maybe you're actually feeling rather frustrated than angry, and at that moment you will feel it, and something inside yourself will resonate with it, and you will be like, oh yeah, this is it. Okay, so I'm feeling frustrated, feeling so frustrated, and then you continue from there. So it's a bit like when you're sharing something with a friend and they reflect back to what they understood you were saying and what they think you're feeling, and if they understood it correctly, you're gonna be like, exactly, you get it, you understand me. And then you're feeling even more open to actually opening up to that person. And this is what we're doing with our inner child. We're making them feel heard and seen by trying to describe and reflect back to them what they are feeling. And then over time, as we practice this, we will naturally augment our emotional vocabulary. And as our vocabulary grows, so does our self-awareness grow. And there's a really, really nice cultural anecdote that shows how this actually works. So, not just for emotions, but also generally for any kind of perception. So there's this example from a tribe in Namibia. They are called the Himba people, and they have a language where they have a lot more words for different shades of green than the English language has. And this actually has the effect that when a person from this tribe sees different shades of green or different green patterns, they will be able to distinguish each of them, whereas an English person will not see any difference. For them it will be green, 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 and green. So, and this really supports this idea that our language influences our perception very, very much. And the same goes for emotions. So when we have the precise words of what we're feeling, and if we have a larger emotional vocabulary, we will actually be able to perceive our inner world in more detail and work with it more effectively. Okay. So actually, there's a whole theory about this. It's called the Sapir-Whorf Hypothesis, and it suggests that the language that we speak actually shapes how we perceive the world and how we think and what you notice. And maybe some of you have made similar experiences so far when studying a new language, for example. You can let me know. Okay, so this was my little input to language today. Now I also wanted to make a small announcement, or I have this idea that I would like to share with you some of the scripts of my emotional freedom technique tapping sequences that you can find on my channel, and I would like to share these scripts for you to be able to download them. And I thought that it might be a nice idea to also offer them in different languages that I personally speak, so that you can resonate deeper with your inner child. So, as I'm originally German, I will definitely also translate them into German, make sure that they are adequate for an EFT sequence so that you can resonate and relate. And yes, I hope I will be able to offer this in some time, and maybe more is to come as well, like MP3 or audio versions of these sequences. We will see. Those are just some ideas. Okay. So to wrap this up, language matters a lot. The specific words you use matter. And the way we talk to ourselves, and especially to our inner children, the younger versions of ourselves that rest within us, can make a big, big difference in processing different emotions, in healing, in accepting yourself the way you are. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. You can leave a like if you liked this video. And I will also put down some references in the comments if you're interested in the different theories that I just mentioned here. I hope that I will see you soon.